People who have been on dead people's computers. Did you find anything you wish you hadn't? I received a computer for Christmas that was previously owned by some old guy. My parents bought it at an estate sale, so it was pretty cheap. Anyways, I start looking through the documents and there was a folder named Jessica's Farm. My young mind was not prepared to see hundreds, and I mean hundreds of pictures of this guy's wife posing nude on horses. The image of an old, wrinkly lady riding horses if forever burned into my brain. Good friend of mine had a major stroke and went into a coma. Prognosis was not good and the family made plans. Since I was the one that knew about computers, they asked me to go through his stuff and find pictures for his memorial service. 2 laptops and 10 USB sticks later, I wanted to bleach out my eyes. My friend was a great guy, but he was morbidly obese. Apparently he had been renting out escorts and such from online forums. They were far from pretty, and thankfully my friend only appeared in a few pictures but had his clothes on. Out of about 10 GB worth of images, I was able to find 5 suitable for his memorial service. The toughest part was telling his family that I could only salvage 5 photos. I told them the hard drives were corrupted. Yep, I wiped them. No sense in letting them know what I found. On a positive note, I did adopt his parrot. Until this day she keeps calling me by his name. Edit. Picture of Monty. She's a girl but he didn't know when he named her. A few months after my wife passed away suddenly, I finally got around to cleaning out her PC and laptop. I'd barely gotten started when I came across a file that had its file associations removed. She did all the financial stuff, so I had to find out if it was something important. Of course my first try was Word document, and sure enough it loaded up. Yeah, it wasn't financial. Turns out she'd written a list of lifetime goals that she wanted to reach, and it had been updated only weeks before she passed. A list of about 30 things she'd dreamed of doing, and only about 4 or 5 were crossed off. I didn't get much done after that. My mother went on my older sister's computer after she died from cancer and found a letter meant for my sister's 2 children which said how horrible my mother was. My sister was pretty angry at life in the final months and seemed to blame my mom for everything. Needless to say, my mom was devastated. Not on the computer, but my family found a 3-ring binder my grandmother kept. It was full of lusty love letters. We asked one of her best friends about it, and she replied with, "Oh yeah, I was supposed to burn that." Apparently, my grandma and this guy had a relationship where they never actually got together, but had lots of phone sex. None of that is quite so bad, I guess, unless you start imagining that it was your grandma. She described many details of their talks in her letters and referred to it all as a year of passion. I had a dead man's computer brought in for clean and repair by his granddaughter as she was going to be using it now he had passed on. In the DVD drive was a porn movie. I can't remember the title, but it was outrageous, like cum guzzling sluts vi. Well, maybe not that outrageous. However, after repairing the computer I kept the DVD in the shop. You know, to protect Gramps' dignity, etc. My father died a few years ago from colon cancer. Even though I was only 19, my brother was significantly younger when we lost him. He was 7. My father and brother would watch a movie usually every other night, and a few months ago I finally got around to cleaning up his computer. I looked through his folder where he downloaded movies to, and the last film he downloaded was Spirited Away. And it was the night before he passed away. Needless to say, we watched it together that night. When I was 18 I took my older brother's computer after he died in a car crash. He was the sort of guy that people loved to be around, always laughing, joking. He made people feel good about themselves. His car had run into a grouping of those cement jersey barriers on a road under construction. No other cars were involved, and there were no signs that he had hit the brakes. He must have dozed off. While emptying his room in his house we found a set of crumpled papers. They were the unfinished first sentences of suicide notes. But he never left a completed note, and instead chose to throw these drafts away. Maybe he sat down to write a note, decided he didn't want to die, needed some air, went for a drive, got into an accident? I couldn't understand how this happy, great guy that I loved could be so unhappy. So I searched his computer for any clues. I was prepared to look in every corner for a clue, an internet history, an AIM log, This was back in the day, a photo, an email, anything. There was nothing. Not just nothing strange. Nothing at all. He had already wiped his computer clean, probably anticipating that his little brother would inherit his computer and snoop around. It still doesn't confirm or deny anything for me. I feel certain that he intended to kill himself. But I've never been more upset to find absolutely nothing. TLDR. Dead brother's computer. Possible suicide. Wish that I hadn't found that he had erased his computer history. Oh, good. This story. So my uncle took shitloads of pictures, just all the damn time. We didn't actually realize the scale of this until I had to look through them all after he died. Turns out we could have lost every single picture ever taken of me, my sister, my cousins, and still we'd have a remarkably smooth transition from infant to adult in picture form. That said, we also discovered he liked porn. So much porn. And since we didn't want to accidentally throw away some priceless picture, I had to go through 3 hard drives and a couple hundred USBs and CDs of almost entirely porn. Now I was more impressed with his capacity to find and organize things than anything else. 4 gigabytes of named, time-stamped videos and pictures of trans women with freakishly large breast implants urinating on men. We have the USB for that right this way. TLDR. Priceless memories. Creepy porn. My boss passed away in his sleep just over a year ago. He was young, and it was unexpected. I helped his boss get into his computer at work, and also his laptop from home to retrieve insurance, banking, investment, etc. information for my boss's family. It was very eerie, in that I found my boss had a lot of the same tastes in music, TV shows, movies, etc. that I had, visited the same websites, etc. I felt like he and I could have become much better friends if there had been more time. I ended up getting almost everything for them. There were a couple of Excel files with financials that were password protected. I ran some brute force programs against them for a few weeks, but eventually my boss had me shut it down, and then it was over. And so now I sit at his desk, on his computer, using his mouse and his keyboard, and do his job. I like to think he's out there, somewhere, watching over me, and that he'd be happy with what I've done in the last year. I hope so, at any rate. After my dad died, we found a bunch of pictures of a kid who looked a lot like my younger brother. After some digging around, we found out my dad had an affair with some married lady about 12 years prior. She got pregnant and the boy is being raised by her husband as their son. My understanding of the situation is that the boy has no idea about my dad. My brothers and I discussed whether or not we were going to tell him, and we decided it was best to let the kid be raised by his parents without him knowing. My boyfriend passed away in December. I put his PlayStation on and play with the little FIFA character we made look like him. I know he would be laughing at how bad I was trying to score. I also saw his old phone. There was a message from a girl basically asking to go on a date, but he had texted her back saying he was actually in a new relationship, me, and it made me feel quite good. I trusted him completely anyway. I miss him every second. My best friend died in a car accident almost 5 months ago. I nearly had a heart attack when, over a month after it happened, my Facebook newsfeed notified me that she had changed her profile picture. Turns out, her husband had changed it to his favorite picture of her. Feels were felt. A while back, my cousin committed suicide while his family was out of town. We had been pretty close growing up, so I flew across the country to spend a couple weeks helping his widow with their 2 kids, 4 and 1.5 years old. Found a bunch of audio files on his computer of him playing with his son, teaching him songs, ABCs, laughing and whatnot. I uploaded them to my Angelfire account to keep that small part of him in my life. It kind of wrecked me for a while and I couldn't listen to them again, just squirreled them away. Couple years later I went to retrieve them only to find Angelfire basically defunct and the account gone. On that same trip, I had found out some things about his widow and their relationship that lead to my cousin's suicide, and have not spoken to her since, so getting them from her is out of the question. It's been over 10 years and the sound of his voice on those files, so happy and joyful, still haunts me. I wish I still had them. All I have of him is sad memories. After my father died, my mom found explicit emails to other men on his computer. She had her suspicions before and took it in stride, realizing that despite being bisexual, they still had a good love life that didn't change how he felt about her and her family. Admirable woman, my mother. Edit from comment below. To get up here for visibility. The way she put it to me, once you realize that despite how much it hurts for you, it hurt 10 times more for him, you really have no choice but to forgive. I sometimes help out at a charity that ensures sex workers have access to condoms and can reach out to police if they suffer violence, etc. At one point we threw a fundraiser that sold art created by former or occasionally current sex workers, and showcased the art of one deceased woman, in particular, who I believe was about to begin transitioning to a man. I was given her hard drive through a friend of the family that worked at the organization, and asked to retrieve what I could of her art and her life. My memory is a little fuzzy on most of this, but I think her death happened in the early 2000s. She had a fairly large Napster directory, and I think it was a Windows XP machine. To be honest, I don't think I found anything I wish I hadn't. Instead, I found a trove of beautiful art, and a small window into someone's life. She was both a hobbyist and a professional photographer, who had a webcam she made good use of. I saw her travels to India and South America. I saw friends of all shapes and sizes, mainly muscular and heavily tattooed, and action shots of her and her girlfriend. She had an active social life, and in most ways, she was just like the rest of us. I feel odd typing it, but I would have felt very voyeuristic if she was still alive. As it were, I didn't worry about it much, and instead thought of it was a very serious responsibility. I guess, ultimately, I found a reminder that even people who do work that's derided or considered dehumanizing by some still lead normal and wonderful lives just like the rest of us, with the same struggles and joys and trials and tribulations. I'm glad I got to experience it. My boyfriend's beloved uncle died suddenly while staying in a long-term hotel. We went to clear out his things and I got a hold of his phone. The death was somewhat of a mystery, but there was no ongoing investigation. I snooped through his phone to see if there were any texts or emails or indication of when exactly or how he died. His browser history was chock full of hits on a gay hookup website, and he had likely met up with a guy on the night he died. No one in the family knew he was gay, least of all his incredibly homophobic redneck son. I'm pretty sure my boyfriend cleared the browser history and emails and kept it a secret.